Hi everyone. So welcome to supplementary video 11. And this video is going to be a little bit long because I want to really go into the details of solving this particular kind of problem. And I want to basically go through all the steps, and that is basically not possible to do it in an actual lecture. So the, the topic of this basically video is torque on a sphere. And this is the problem 8.3-1 in your book, in the Dean's book. And the basic idea that behind this problem is that this is related to Stokes flow. Stokes flow, okay? And I want to emphasize that your homework for problem 3 is exactly a unidirectional flow or Stokes flow problem, which is exactly the same category of problem that we'll solve in this video. So hopefully this video will also help you kind of, do your homework problem. So like we had discussed in class, basically Stokes flow have the basic equation of Stokes flow is minus grad P plus mu del square V plus rho G is 0. Okay, because the inertia can essentially be ignored. No inertia. Inertia is equal to 0. And Reynolds number is much less than 1. This is what happens, that you can basically ignore inertia and you can basically solve the problem. You can solve the problem in 1D, it is unidirectional flow, or rather unidirectional flow, or you can solve a nearly unidirectional flow, or you can solve a two-dimensional flow. So there are three categories of problem you can think of. There is also three-dimensional, but that's not the of the course, that's not the scope of the course, but unidirectional, unidirectional, nearly unidirectional, nearly unidirectional, and two-dimensional. And two-dimensional. Okay, so this is the kind of flows that you can solve within Stokes flow. Okay, so within Stokes flow, they all come under Stokes flow category. And in the class, we had discussed a squeeze flow problem where basically you're squeezing a fluid between two plates, and that was a nearly unidirectional flow problem. But the scope of this problem, torque on a sphere, it's a unidirectional flow. Okay? In homework 4, problem 3 is also unidirectional flow. And then on Thursday, the problem we'll discuss is a two-dimensional flow, where basically there are two velocity components that are both quite similar to each other. They're both comparable. In nearly directional flow, one was dominant and the other was non-zero, but it was just very small. And unidirectional flow, there is only one component which is a non-zero. The reason why I wanted to do this problem and why this is actually a slightly more complicated problem is it's a spherical geometry. And then we also discussed the torque on a sphere. So there's a torque associated, which we have not discussed yet in this course. So let's discuss this problem. And I just wanted to clarify that this is a unidirectional Stokes flow problem. Okay. So what's the problem and how should we think about this problem? So the problem states that there is a sphere. Okay. Well, this is sphere of radius r, and this is the direction z. Okay, we will not generally discuss too much about the Cartesian coordinate because we first want to discuss here the spherical coordinates. But I want to clarify that this is the direction z, this is the direction r, which is the radial direction. Okay, and I want to clarify this that this is the angle with the z direction is the theta direction, and angle with the xy plane is the phi. Okay, so what is happening is that the sphere is rotating about the z-axis. Okay? So there is a rotational speed omega. This is a solid sphere, rotational speed omega, which is constant. This is a solid sphere, and we'll use ER, E theta, and E phi. Okay, ER, E theta, E phi, and I want to be very clear about this that this r direction is radially outward. So if your center is 0, in the middle, you basically go in the radial direction, you go outwards. Phi is in the xy plane, right? So if my sphere is like this, z in this direction, the xy plane is the phi direction in which you are rotating along this. So basically, I'm rotating in the phi direction, right? Because I'm rotating about z. some rotating around the phi direction. Theta is this direction. So theta is basically like this. So let me just sketch it out. Theta is like this, but phi is like, around this dimension. So hopefully you're familiar with these ER, E theta, E phi. We have not done this in course still now, and so that's why I just want to make sure that you're clear about it. But essentially here, the main point is that we are, so because we have ER, E theta, E phi, so velocity vector will be VR, ER plus V theta, E theta plus V phi, E phi. Okay, and the fluid is around it. So this is a solid sphere, and the fluid is around it here outside. So when the solid is moving, it's creating flow in the fluid. So the movement of the solid creates that. So there will be a no slip condition. Basically, the solid is rotating, so the fluid on the surface will also rotate. There cannot be any penetration into the surface because it's a solid, so you cannot have any penetration. So because of these conditions, you can actually reason out that Vr is equal to 0 and V theta is equal to 0. Okay? And as well as P is equal to constant, or you can basically simply say pressure is 0. So this is kind of the premise of the problem, that you can assume them to be 0. Now you may say, why? Well, why do we assume them to be 0? So the simplest answer is that if you assume them to be 0, you can actually satisfy the equation. So we are seeking the simplest form of solution for a low Reynolds number flow. And uh, the book actually discusses that in moderate Reynolds number, there can be a dependence of pressure, but we are not talking about the moderate Reynolds number case. We are only talking about Stokes flow, in which case you will have identically equal to zero velocities. Now, I will not discuss in this particular video how I can prove that, but in actually your problem in the homework, because it's a cylindrical geometry, it's a bit easier to see. In cylindrical geometry, also there are plates rotating in that problem. And if you basically, the problem kind of guides you how to prove that the pressure is constant and the velocity is 0. Okay, so but it's a unidirectional flow, and the simplest way you can think about it is V phi is a natural velocity direction. There is no reason for the velocity to go in r or in theta. Basically, it should just rotate as the fluid, as the solid is rotating. Okay, so if you believe this, then this is a unidirectional problem. You can prove it formally, but that's not something we are going to do in the problem. So essentially, you want to solve for V phi. Okay, sorry, V phi, not V theta. That's the first goal, and then we want to calculate torque torque on the sphere. So that's why that's the name of the title of the problem, torque on a sphere. So calculate G, which is the torque. Okay, so that's the goal. So how do we go about this problem? Okay, so first thing we have done is we have chosen r theta phi. Again, the geometry is the spherical coordinates r theta phi. Phi is, again, remember, the xy plane. Theta is the movement in the z plane, and r is radially normal outward direction. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the governing equations. The first step is governing equation. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll go through the table given in the book. So this is something you have to get used to, and that's why I'm not going into the detail in this video, because you can see there are a lot of terms in this in this uh, equation in the spherical coordinates. So you can see r component, theta component, phi component. What I'm saying is r and theta component, we are not bothering about them, but you have to see that actually the r and theta component also have a v phi. You have a v phi, and so on. So we can basically, we'll have to prove them to be 0. I'm not doing that right now, but let's just assume we are directly going to the phi component, which is the third component you see. So in the problem, we'll say we'll ignore gravity. So ignore gravity. I should have clarified that. So we are ignoring gravity. So let's go to the phi dimension. So we'll remove this term g phi, p is 0, so we remove this term. And then we can also remove the VR. So if you look at the cursor, this is the third and the fourth term, v theta and vr are also 0. So we essentially get Laplace of v phi minus v phi by r squared sine squared theta is 0. And note that the left hand side is completely 0 because this is a Stokes flow. So the left hand side is not important, and it's inertia, so we will completely ignore them. Gravity is zero, pressure is constant, so we literally get two terms. One is Laplace. The Laplace is again in the bottom has been given to us, and then we have this term of v phi. So we have a Laplace which has three terms. The second term is minus v phi by r square sine square theta. So we'll have total of four terms equal to zero. That's our governing equation. And again, I'm emphasizing that in the homework problem for a cylindrical geometry, you're asked to prove that V R in that problem, how V R, V theta, V Z vary. But in this problem, we're assuming that V R is zero, V theta is zero, and V phi is non-zero. And now let's go to the system. Okay. All right. So I'll give you the governing equation directly. I hope you will actually take time out to really go through the equations. So the equation becomes this. So my equation is mu del square v phi minus v phi by r square sine square theta equal to 0. Let me again go back to the table to show you this. V del square v phi and v phi r square sine square theta, these two terms don't matter because v r is 0, v theta is 0, and the other two terms do not matter because of gravity and pressure. Okay, and now we have the Laplace of v phi. So Laplace is given in the denominator here. Okay, so we'll again now expand further with Laplace. So let's do it. So it's 1 by r square. Expand this. This is table. Let me just check which table number this is. Table 6-9, I think. 6-9. Yeah, 6-9. Okay. So 1 by r square del by del r. So mu does not matter because basically this is 0. So simply we'll go directly to the Laplace term. Del by del r square del v phi by del r. Okay. Plus 1 by r square 1 by r square sine theta by del theta. So it's sine theta in the denominator. Sine theta del by del theta. Okay. Sine theta inside del v theta del v phi by del theta. Del v phi by del theta. Okay. Plus there's a third term. So what I'm doing is I'm expanding the Laplace. So I've taken this term, and the third term is del by del phi. And that's the important part, that this term is also 0. And that's because of the geometry of the system. You can imagine that there cannot be any, so if whether I am here, so this is the phi direction, you're rotating around this, whether you are here, it doesn't matter. You can have a dependence on theta because theta is going in this direction. Okay, you will have different velocities depending on theta, but phi cannot cannot have a dependence, and this is basically del by del phi is 0, or the problem is axis symmetry. Okay, or the problem is axis symmetry. So I'll not write that term down, and I'll basically say del by del phi is 0, or del v phi by del phi will be 0 because that's the only non-zero term, the velocity. But it's important to kind of go about this, think about it. This, and then again minus. Finally, we have minus v phi by r square sine square theta. So this is our equation, and I know this looks a bit. This may not be super straightforward because we have not really done problems in spherical geometry, especially in r theta phi. But don't get scared about through these equations. These are just simple equations which have been transformed into r theta phi. They are still Navier-Stokes equation. They are still simply derivatives, second derivatives, and Laplace terms. Just that the geometry is slightly more complicated. But don't get scared. I mean, when I was a grad student, I often used to get scared with these equations, and often will basically kind of don't attempt some similar problems. But simply look at the table. You don't have to memorize any of these things. You just look at the table and rule out the terms that are not important. Okay, so let's again go back, make sure we are following everything. P is 0. That's an assumption because there should not be any pressure variation. It's only the sphere is only rotating because of the rotation of the sphere. The fluid is only moving because of the rotation of the sphere. There should not be any velocity in the normal direction VR or the theta direction like this. You should only have a velocity in the phi direction, but phi will not depend on itself because of axis symmetry. Then We went back to the governing equation and simply wrote the terms which are non-zero. That's all we have done till now. Okay. The next thing we need to know is what is V phi. Okay, so what is V phi at the surface? So the surface is r comma theta at r equal to r, and I'm not writing phi because it does not have a dependence on phi. So V phi can be dependent on r theta phi, but we are basically looking only at r and theta because V del phi is zero, so V phi is a function of r and theta. And what should be this value? So the value at the surface should be the no slip condition, and that's the tangential part. The normal part is the radial variation, that's zero naturally. So you can imagine that basically it's the velocity of the sphere, and the velocity of the sphere is it's rotating about this axis. So the distance from the center should be r sine theta. This is r. So look at this here. The velocity is omega times distance from the omega d, where d is distance from axis of rotation. So that's the velocity, right? Distance from axis of rotation. From axis of rotation. Okay. So here d is like this, for instance. So for a theta, it will depend, right? It will vary with theta. And this is r, and this angle is theta, and this is d. Okay. And so d is essentially r sine theta. So d is omega r sine theta. Okay. So that's essentially what you get. Or your velocity is omega r sine theta. And I hope that makes sense. If when theta is zero, which is basically at the top, the velocity is zero because it's actually at this point, right? But when you have theta equal to pi by 2, or you are at this level of theta, then velocity along the entire ring is maximum because that's the maximum you can go away from the axis of rotation. So that's how you can think about this omega r sine theta. And then V phi far away from the sphere, infinity comma theta, they should be zero. Okay. And this should be zero. Let's do this. So this is no slip, no slip, and this is far away. So disturbance basically goes down. There should not be any. The fluid is quite far away, so the sphere should not be able to kind of move that fluid, which is very far away. So this is the first time we are actually talking about flow around an object, or basically around an object. We generally have been thinking about a channel flow, and we have never encountered infinity till now. So this is the first time we are doing this. So far away, you can imagine there will be no disturbance. Okay, so that's what we have done. This is our equation. So this was the first step of governing equations. The second step is boundary condition. And the third step is to solve. But the challenge here is that we have only given boundary conditions in phi. In r, small r. We have not given boundary conditions in theta, and that's because it's hard to kind of differentiate between different thetas, because we just know that we have already encountered the dependence of theta through this sine theta term, right? So one very clever idea here is that because we have a PDE in r and theta, why don't we go and actually make it an ODE? Because we don't we can even capture the dependence of theta in this boundary condition here. Why don't we remove the dependence in theta completely? And to do that, basically what you do is you substitute V phi as function of r, which you do not know, times sine theta. And you might be wondering, well, how can I magically just replace this function? But it is not completely random. If you think about this, you can see that there is a sine theta here, there's a sine theta in the denominator, basically, and in the boundary condition too. So why don't we guess a solution like this? And this is something that was very common when there were not numerics available. People used to guess the solution and seek a solution that looks may fit the equation. And it's not random, it comes with practice. Of course, you're not expected to know all these things beforehand, but basically this is kind of, you can see the pattern. Sometimes you can do guesswork and kind of calculate these things. Okay, so let's substitute this and let's look at this together. So let's substitute this in governing equation. Substitute in governing equation. Okay. So let's go 1 by r square del by del r. So now we'll have everything with d by dr, because 1 by r square d by dr r square f of r. Okay. And sine theta will simply come outside, sine theta. Okay. Sine theta. Then we have plus 1 by r square sine theta. And then we have del by del theta. So f is not, f is just basically going to come out, fr. Then we have a d by d theta, d by d theta of sine theta, right? And then del v theta by del theta will be d theta, d of sine theta by d theta, which is cos theta. And this will be cos theta. Okay. And then the third term is minus fr sine theta by r square sine square theta. Okay, I hope I'm not making any mistake here. Is equal to 0. Let me just have to check my notes. Yeah, I think we should be okay here. All right. So basically, what we get now is uh, we get. So now let's just take out everything which we does not have a theta term. So basically, we get 1 by r square here, d by dr of r square f of r sine theta, plus you can see there is a common of fr by r square, okay, and 1 by sine theta, uh, d by d theta of sine theta cos theta minus 1 by sine theta. This one power gets cancelled here. This is equal to 0. Okay, and again now here d by d theta of sine theta cos theta. You can think of this as product rule. So a derivative of sine theta is cos theta, and derivative of cos theta is minus sine theta. So this becomes sine squared minus sine squared theta plus cos squared theta minus 1 by sine theta. Okay, this whole term, actually, not just this. You can check this. This is not very complicated what I'm doing here. And cos square theta minus 1 is minus sine square theta, so it becomes minus 2 sine square theta. So this actually becomes, you can verify this becomes minus 2 sine theta. Or rather, your sine theta will get cancelled. You'll get sine theta times 1 by r square d by dr of r square f of r minus 2f by r square is 0. And we can basically remove this. This is our new governing equation because sine theta is no longer there. So we basically were able to successfully eliminate theta from the equation, which means the equation, the form of the velocity was actually correct. Okay. See what we get. And again, if you feel kind of, how did I just directly jump? You can kind of think of it this, these things come with experience. You're not supposed to know this. Typically, like in the homework problem, we've already given you a function to try. So, these things basically come with kind of practice. But one thing you can see is how I said, like you see sine theta floating around in the equation and in the boundary condition. So that is kind of the idea you can try, and basically you can see it works. Okay. Our boundary conditions are now simple. F at r is omega r because sine theta is now no longer there, and f of infinity is 0. So this is the boundary condition we have. And now how do I solve this problem? So if you look at the problem, we actually do not have, this is not a standard equation that you can just directly solve. There is actually my mistake. There is, I think I've been making a mistake. So please don't get confused. There's a df by dr here, which is weird. So sorry about that. It hasn't changed our calculation, so that's why uh, basically this should be a df by dr here. Let me just clarify everywhere just to make sure. df by dr here, df by dr here. Okay. So okay, yeah, in the numerator it is correct, but here, sorry, in the first step it is correct, but this should be the correct equation. Okay, so that's why we need two boundary conditions, because there we need a second derivative with f. So sorry about that. Hopefully this does not confuse you because you were not focusing on that part till now. This is the kind of differential equation we have for which there is not, a known solution. And this is also something new you are learning in this problem, is that you can kind of, and we will see this in the class on the two-dimensional flow also, that this can actually have a kind of like a polynomial expansion actually should typically fit in these spherical coordinate equations in R, like a n raised power of r raised power of n. So what do I mean by that? So for instance, if I do df by dr, this an is a coefficient. I do not know about this. Let's just call it a, so that we don't get confused. A, okay, a times n times r raised power of n minus 1. Okay, I'm taking a derivative of df. Now r square df by dr, r square df by dr is multiplying now again and I do not know the value of n. Okay, so we'll find the value of n. So it becomes a n r is power of n plus 1. This is the standard form how to solve this problem. If you are not familiar with it, it's completely fine. You can learn through this example. And then we'll take another derivative of this d by dr of r square df by dr. Okay, and that basically becomes uh, a times n times n plus 1. Okay? And then we have r is power of n. Okay, this is what we get. This is our term, this term. Okay, and you can see this r square and this r square is not important. So essentially, I can substitute this back here to get a times n into n plus 1 minus 2 times, and f is what? F is this. So 2a times r is power of n is equal to 0, or 8 into r is power of n. So n into n plus 1 minus 2 is 0. And this is the way we can solve for n. And essentially, what we get here is n squared is n minus 2 is 0, or n plus 2 into n minus 1 is equal to 0, or n is equal to 1, and n is equal to minus 2. So both of these n's will satisfy the equation, or essentially our f of r becomes a times r plus b by r squared. Okay. So this is what we get as our solution. So again, you may not have seen this before, completely fine. Basically substitute these as a polynomial expansion and you find what polynomials satisfy, and the coefficients is what you solve through boundary conditions. So we have an infinity here, so naturally the a will go to 0 because of this boundary condition, because if you put r equal to infinity, that's basically not going to work out. And if for that, basically you can essentially verify that this will become f of r cubed by r squared. This is what we get, or our v phi is omega r cubed sine theta by r squared. This satisfies the boundary condition, and this should also satisfy the governing equation of our system. Okay. This is what we get for v phi. Let me verify that I have not made an error here till now. Our v phi is okay. Yeah, we are correct. Omega r cubed sine theta by r squared. So let's just briefly recap where we were. So we started with the governing equation where we said v theta is 0 and del by del phi is 0. Then we said because of the boundary conditions, we can actually substitute v phi as fr of sine theta. When we did that, we were able to get a differential equation. And I again apologize because of that small error. Hopefully that did not confuse anyone. And then when you substitute a polynomial expansion, we were able to find two powers, and essentially we were able to get a solution for f of r, which looks like this and which satisfies the boundary condition. And then we got the v phi. Now the next thing what we want to do is we want to find the torque. So we have the velocity. Now this is the only velocity which is non-zero. And you can see we basically, it only depends on the spinning, omega. If omega is 0, this velocity also goes away, which means the fluid will remain quiet. If omega increases, this also goes up. It depends on sine theta and depends on r. The farther you go away from the surface, the smaller the velocity is. And at the surface, the velocity is omega r sine theta, which is the same as a boundary condition or no slip condition. Okay. So now the next thing is to calculate the torque. So to calculate, how to calculate torque? How to calculate torque? Okay. So we'll only calculate torque the magnitude, or G is the magnitude. Okay. We'll not worry about the direction as much. It's a small thing, and it's something I don't want to basically confuse you about. There is a like in normal, sometimes deciding on normal directions in curvature. We said, for now, don't worry about the sign. Similarly, don't worry about the sign here. Just look at the magnitude. So to get the torque is essentially R cross F, right? So torque is G is basically R cross F. Okay. R is the distance from axis of rotation, distance from, let's call it D so that you don't get confused. D, distance from axis of rotation, and F is the force. F is the force. Okay. So now the force is essentially what the force that the fluid is applying. We know how to calculate that. We know force is basically calculated through stress vector. Sn is n dot sigma. Okay. And to get that n dot sigma here, n is basically Er, right, dot sigma, or Er, and pressure in this case is 0. So in this case, it's simply tau, right, because pressure is 0. So sigma simply becomes tau. And now to calculate tau, we need to define all the components. And we can basically go and look at the components. We look at the components. So we have a tau RR, which will be 0 because VR is 0. We have tau theta, and del dot V is 0 because it's a continuity equation. So just don't worry about these terms. This is table 6.6. So V theta is 0. So tau theta is 0. Del V phi by del phi is 0. VR is 0. V theta is 0. So tau phi is 0. Tau R theta, and again V theta is 0. VR is 0. So this also doesn't matter. Tau theta phi. So now tau theta phi has V phi, which is non-zero. It is a V phi by sine theta. So V phi by sine theta, and you can remember V phi is F sine theta. So it's basically the term by in the brackets is only F, which is only a function of R. So this also is actually 0, and del V theta is 0. So this is 0. Then the only term, the VR is 0. So the only term we basically are left with is this term V phi by R. V phi is FR sine theta. So FR sine theta is definitely the function of R. So this is the only term which is matter. Again, you can go through this slowly and convince yourself that the only non-zero term is tau R phi. Okay, tau R phi or tau phi. Okay, so I'll go back and say what's basically going on here. So you can verify this, that this will become tau R phi E of E of phi. E of phi. Okay, so what's basically going on here is what we're saying is only in the phi direction, which is again, if it's rotating, the phi direction is in this plane. In the plane, one of you can imagine cutting cross section, so it's in a plane of the xy plane basically. If this is the z direction, if this is the z direction, xy plane is the kind of slices you make in the sphere of different radii. So the only that direction should be non-zero, which makes sense, which kind of makes sense. So this will come out to be, and tau of R phi is mu. Let's just make sure I'm not making a mistake here. It's mu R del by del R of V phi by R. Mu, let me check again. Yeah, V phi by R. And this is mu R, or I can take out sine theta. And then I get R into df by df by I by dr. There is no R here. Okay, and we know F is omega. F is omega R cubed by R square. Okay, so you can substitute that, and this should be calculated at r equal to capital R, right? At the surface. This should be calculated at surface. It's actually very easy to get this. Once you get this, you will get minus 3 mu sine theta, minus 3 mu sine theta, and what you will get is omega, mu omega sine theta. That's all you will get. Okay. You can verify this, and is this the correct units? It is correct units because omega is 1 by second inverse, and you get mu u by h, which is basically mu gradient of velocities has also units of second inverse. But this is actually correct unit, so it does not depend, and so the stress vector is not dependent on the uh, is not dependent on the radius, but the force will be. The force will be, but not the stress vector, just per unit area. Okay. So what we did again, we got the velocity using polynomial expansion. Then we said that to calculate the torque, we first need to calculate the stress vector because that will give us the force. So we calculate the stress vector. So now to calculate torque, we will have to integrate because we have gotten the phi. So but the distance d depends on theta. So distance d depends on theta. So what we basically have is distance d here, phi is perpendicular. So r cross phi, this is d, right? The stress vector is perpendicular, and the area basically is this area of this ring here. Okay, and this area is r sine theta. This is r sine theta, which is the distance d, and the area is 2 pi r sine theta, which is the circumference, times this area, which is r d theta. So 2 pi r sine theta 2 pi r sine theta r d theta. This is the area. Okay. Then I'll multiply this with minus 3 mu omega sine theta to get the. So this is area times the stress vector, which gives me the force. But then I also need to multiply with r sine theta to get the torque. So hopefully this makes sense. So first, stress vector times area gives me the force, then force times the distance gives me the torque. And again, I'm not worrying about the cross because they are both perpendicular. It's d cross phi. That will give me Ez actually, which is in the z direction, which is the direction of rotation, which makes sense. And my theta will go from 0 to pi. This is how so this essentially becomes, and we'll not worry about the sign because we basically are calculating the magnitude. So this will come out to be, you can check 3 pi mu omega r cube, sorry, 6 pi mu omega r cube, 6 pi mu omega r cube, 0 to pi sine cube theta d theta. Okay. And this you can check through Wolfram alpha. If you like to do analytical math, you can check. This comes out to be 4 by 3, or essentially the final result is 8 pi mu omega r cube. So this is the torque G. So dg, and so that's becomes G. Okay, 8 pi omega r cube. Let me make sure that this direction is actually, this is correct. Yeah, the book says correct. So this is what you get as the value. Okay, so this is a difficult problem. I realize that there are a lot of things we introduced in the video. So let's go through slowly again and again to make sure you know what we did. First, we started with the problem. It's a unidirectional problem in Stokes flow when the Reynolds number is much more than 1. And then basically the idea here is that because the sphere is rotating, the velocity, only phi direction velocity is important, which is in the xy plane. There cannot be any velocity in the theta direction, which is going like this. This theta is along this, which is, there is no direction there. There cannot be anything going away from the sphere like this, which is the r direction. So it has to be the phi direction. We assume that, and we assume that there is no pressure gradient because this is literally created because of the rotation or purely rotational flow. So then we got the governing equation. We said, okay, we have the governing equation, And because of this sine theta floating around, and we said we will ignore any dependence on phi itself. V phi is not zero, but the derivative with phi can be zero. So V phi only depends on small r and theta. Because of the way the equation looks like, we can actually substitute V phi as f of r sine theta. We got then converted a PD into ODE. Then we had the boundary conditions of no slip and far away from the surface. We said this is a kind of equation in the spherical coordinates. It's very common that you can substitute them as a polynomial, and we will see this also in an example in the class. When you do that, you will get a quadratic equation which can take two values of n, which means we have two unknown coefficients a and b, where a goes to be zero because when r goes to zero, velocity in infinity, velocity has to be zero, which means a is not there. So we got f of r, which gave us v of phi. All right, so we got V of phi. Now we want to calculate torque. To calculate torque, we need to calculate force. To need force, we need to go to stress vector. In stress vector, there is no pressure force. There is only a shear stress. For shear stress, we went through all the different kinds of stresses. Let's go look at them again. Tau r, theta theta, tau tau phi phi, r theta theta phi phi r. We said the only one which is non-zero is this last one. And you can convince yourself of substituting all the values that all others are zero. And this is a term which is non-zero, which gave us basically the tau r phi, which gave us the stress vector. From the stress vector, we said, okay, we have the stress vector, but we need to multiply with the area. The right area to think about this kind of, the part which is shaded in the R here, which is kind of a ring with the radius R sine theta. And the RD theta is the kind of the thickness of that ring to get the area. And basically that's how we got that. And R sine theta was a distance away from the axis of rotation. So when we did that, we got the torque. So you will do a very similar problem, but it's much simpler with cylindrical geometries in your homework. But I hope this video was useful. We covered a lot of new material here. And you are not expected to, solve spherical geometry problems in your exams, but this is a very practical problem. So this is very important for rheology. If some of you are doing rheology, you can sometimes have spherical geometries there, in which case you actually end up using a lot of things we discussed here, like calculating stress at the edge, the spherical geometry, which then gives us torque. And in an actual experiment, you can measure torque, which is then used to extract back the viscosity. So hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me. And then I look forward to seeing you in the next video.